Sooner Nation, Longhorn fans, welcome to episode 95 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. Kevin, we will talk about the college football playoff, I assure you. We will talk about the titanic matchup in the Sugar Bowl between the University of Texas and the University of Washington. But it is incumbent upon me as a Sooner fan to ask, what in the hell is happening in Norman, Oklahoma when we lose our freshman starting offensive lineman, the only offensive lineman returning that had any eligibility left? Caden Green, out of nowhere, has decided to enter the transfer portal as of about 3 hours ago. I do not think this is going to be a Danny Stutsman turnaround. I don't think this is going to be a Taway Walker turnaround. I think we've lost this kid. I think we've lost him to money. And Kevin, I know that the transfer portal and NIL giveth and taketh away, but it sucks. And I hate it. And I don't even know what to think about it at this point. What did you think when you saw the news that Caden Green is out at the University of Oklahoma?
Yeah, man, I was pretty blown away by it, right? This was a guy that came in, played a little bit, and then came in the second half of the Red River Shootout as being your starter and one of your best offensive linemen ever. Seemed like this guy had a pretty bright future with the Sooners. And then didn't he just tweet welcoming the transfer offensive lineman you guys got from Michigan State just a few days ago? So I think this really surprised everybody. I don't know what happened. I mean, you would imagine there was some sort of tampering going on, which we know happens, right? It happens with everybody. I think everybody does it. Everybody goes through it. But yeah, this one was a huge surprise. And Sooner fans are shocked right now.
I'm not naive to the tampering. Like, I understand it. I'm just, does it work in such a way that coach reaches out to a NIL collective member reaches out to a member of, in this case, Caden Green's circle, whether that's the dad or the uncle or the brother or the agent. I don't even know if Caden Green might have an agent, so that there's no tampering because it's coming from the NIL collective and not the school.
Yeah.
And then the circle,
there's ways to get around that easily.
Right. And then the circle goes to Caden Green and says, hey, man, whatever school it is, and they're saying maybe Missouri. Is that what you've heard?
I've heard, but I don't know if there's any,
definitive
thing. But I've heard Missouri. I've heard Oregon. Maybe I've even heard Colorado mentioned. Who knows, man? But this one was weird. I haven't heard of anything like this happening yet with OU or Texas. And who knows what Texas has in store for them after the playoff is over. Right, I think if Texas was going to a regular bowl game this year, maybe we would have heard something similar. But it's an interesting situation for a guy that's a surefire starter next year on a team that's going to the SEC, for him to bail out like that. It's very interesting, man.
Well, the larger issue for Oklahoma, maybe NIL and transfer portal is a larger issue, but the issue going into next season is six offensive linemen that saw playing time started, combination thereof, including Caden Green, Walter Rouse, Savion Byrd, Andrew Rame, Matoire, and Guyton. We've got to replace all those guys. And
that's a lot, man. That's a lot of going into the SEC.
That's exactly right. Going to the SEC. I mean, I guess I know that we've got a 4-star in Brooks, who's an inside offensive lineman, 3-star, and 2 other 3-stars, Akinkumi, Isaiah Autry are both offensive linemen. But man, we're not expecting a 4-star and 2 3-stars to step in.
Freshmen. You shouldn't have to rely on freshmen at all. Right now, a player like Green was a bonus last year, right? That he was surrounded by experienced players everywhere else. Fifth-year guy, left tackle, experienced center in Andrew Rames. So experienced guys, and then you plug him in. You can't have 5 guys like that. Texas had to play a couple of freshmen offensive linemen back in 2017 with Connor Williams and Patrick Vahe, and man, it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
even getting guys you guys can go and get guys out of the portal, but man, you like to have some guys who have been in the system, been coached by Bevo for a couple years playing, and then get the portal to fix a hole here and there, not to replace the entire offensive line. It's a rough spot.
Well, we do have the Michigan State offensive tackle Spencer Brown committed out of the portal. So, maybe there's an opportunity there. One of the things I was going to ask you about this, when we talk about the transfer portal, so Texas is not experiencing any of this, largely because they're going to the college football playoff. In some odd way, does that put you behind the transfer portal curve in the sense that y'all won't necessarily be active in it until after the playoff game?
No, man, we are all over the portal right now. Yeah, we got the Burks kid who you guys have. I know we'll get to him in a second, but I thought he was scheduling to come and visit Texas before he committed to you guys. That one kind of caught me off guard, the timing of it. But I know Texas is after Matthew Golden, a transfer out of Houston. It's looking pretty good for him. Andrew Makuba out of from Clemson, starting safety for them. He's been a 3-year starter at safety for them. He's actually from Austin, but there's a chance they may get him. And also Trey Moore. He's a really talented edge player out of Smithson Valley High School in the San Antonio area. He's been playing at UTSA the past 2 years. He has 22 sacks in the last 2 years at UTSA. He's in the portal. He visited Texas on Saturday. So, man, we're pretty hard in the recruiting of the portal right now. We've also lost some guys. I think we've lost 7 players. It's just the players that have left have not been impact players yet.
Okay, so you have lost 7 players, but you have not got commits from anybody. Not that I noticed when I was preparing for the show.
No official commits yet, but there are some guys who have visited, and we're gonna go hard in the portal this year. Okay. Hopefully, we can find another A.D. Mitchell like we did last year.
Well, I'm hopefully for us, this Deion Burks kid, fills a need. I'll tell you what, we might not have an offensive line, so it might not matter. But in terms of who Jackson Arnold is going to be throwing the ball to, it's a pretty impressive lineup of receivers. I mean, it's burgeoning on the territory where Texas was going into the 23 season, right? I mean, you were entering the season with Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jordan Whittington. Well, now you're looking at an Oklahoma team that's going to have Deion Burks, Nick Anderson, Farouk, Andrell Anthony. I mean, it's a pretty loaded
Jaden
receiver
Gibson will
room.
be back for y'all too, right?
Jaden Gibson. It's a pretty loaded receiver room, so that's exciting. And then on the running back side of things, we know Marcus Major and Dalen Smothers they entered the transfer portal. Which, as far as Marcus Major goes, I cannot for the life of me believe he has eligibility left. I feel like that kid has been there forever.
Yeah, I think he's been there 5 years, but the COVID thing, he got the 6th year, so.
It's insane. So he's gone, and you know what? I hope he finds a place where he can play. It just never worked out like we all thought it might, hoped it would, whatever. Smothers.
Hopefully he knows that John Wilson is a president of the Marcus Major fan club.
I was the original president. I got kicked out of office, midway through the 2022 season. After harping on his name, I kind of went sour on him. But yeah, no, dude, I loved Marcus Major. I wanted to see the local guy win, but it just wasn't to be. Dalen Smothers is out as well. Tolly Walker exited before Smothers did. And now Tolly Walker, as of this recording on Tuesday, December 12th, was back at practice. And all indications are he's back on the team and plans on playing in the bowl game.
I wasn't sure about. I heard about him being in practice. I just wasn't sure if he actually ever put his name into the portal. Has he withdrawn his name from the portal? It's hard to know.
The latest word I had is his name was not withdrawn from the portal, but he gave the coaches the verbal that he was going to play in the bowl game and remove his name from the portal. And my guess maybe is with Smothers leaving, it opened up a scholarship spot. Because keep in
Yeah, it's just interesting, right? You just never know what these kids are thinking, right? I would imagine maybe Walker was disappointed in his inconsistent playing time because anytime he was in there, he appeared to be effective, right? But it seemed like, they would take him out for Major, take him out for Sawchuk. When again, Sawchuk by the end of the season was clearly the best option for OU. But still, I think there were situations where he could have played more. There were times where he wouldn't even see the field until the second half. I think he's too good of a player to not be on the field at all during, the first half of a football game, no matter who you're playing.
Dude, I think the frustration was not getting a scholarship. And I think when Smothers dropped, they probably said, okay, dude, here's your scholarship if you come back. I hope it works out. I mean, I like the kid. I thought Tolly Walker was a good addition, and I hope he gets a scholarship. I think he deserves a scholarship. But here's the thing. What's crazy about this is we're 11 minutes in, and we barely talked about the fact that Billy Bowman is staying at Oklahoma, which is ginormous. And then Danny Stutsman, who once was lost, now is found, is returning to Oklahoma. First of all, Billy Bowman, he never was leaving. He just said he was staying. Okay, great. We were all happy. That was about 3 or 4 days ago. Danny Stutsman, as of yesterday, we found out yesterday he's coming back after saying he's going to the NFL. You're outside looking in as a Texas fan. What do you make of that? Is it weird?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
what's the draft grade. What is it?
You would wonder that, right? Maybe he got his draft board and it was not where he expected it to be and decided to come back. We've seen that before with players, but usually they don't announce that they're leaving. Well, again, in his defense, he never did announce, but he did tell the coaches that he was leaving. So, and that stuff kind of always leaks. It's just really interesting, man. It's great news for OU to have that guy back, right? I mean, he's been your best, most consistent player on defense this past year, him and Bowman. But honestly, the Bowman thing to me is a little bit stranger. I don't know if he even submitted for a draft grade.
Okay, let's talk about.
Have you heard anything?
Let's talk about this Bowman thing in a little more in depth. Okay, so draft grades. Listen, I think Billy Bowman's fantastic. I think he's first team All-American. I think he's the best safety at Oklahoma since. I mean, dude, you could almost go back to Roy Williams and maybe Roy Williams. Tony Jefferson had a very good career in the NFL. He wasn't as good as Billy Bowman was at Oklahoma, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't the playmaker.
No, but he was a very good player. So I don't want to lose sight of T-Jeff there. But anyway, we're going back to somebody. But my point is, okay, that's as good as I think he is, and I'm so happy he's coming back. 3rd round draft pick, 4th round draft pick.
I don't know. I don't think so, man.
You think higher?
Yes, dude. He is a dynamic athlete. He's proven to be a good open field tackler, and more important than any of that, he's a big time playmaker. And that's what the NFL wants: is guys who can make plays.
Okay,
and he can do that.
But listen, let's say he gets a sniff of his draft card. Maybe he talks to his agent, okay? And they say, okay, hey, look, Billy, we're thinking late 2nd round, early 3rd round, okay? First of all, we know that if it's 3rd round, it's not necessarily a guaranteed contract, okay? If he comes back to OU and gets that NIL money, and it's Billy Bowman who can command some NIL money, is it likely or possible that he makes the decision that says, okay, wait a minute, I stay at OU, I make this 6-figure number, probably a high 6-figure number, playing football at OU. I play one more year in the SEC. I improve my draft stock. Maybe I slip into the 1st round with a guaranteed contract, and it's more financially beneficial, seriously, more money in his pocket to stay at Oklahoma one more year. Is that possible?
Of course. Yeah, it's absolutely possible. I just haven't looked. I'm not some kind of draft expert, scout, NFL scout or anything. But when I look at his game with his speed, I mean, he'd go to the combine and run in the low 4.4s. The low 4.4s, maybe even the 4.3s.
And that's pretty good for a safety. pretty good for a safety.
Correct. Exactly, for a free, and the guy has playmaking ability, right? We've seen him make plays in big situations in games. So, and it was so quick. He announced so quick because usually the way it works is that any player who's eligible for the NFL, you can reach out to there's an NFL draft committee. They do a bunch of research and they send you back where they think you would get drafted at. Some guys go. I mean, Texas had several players do it last year. Devondre Sweat did it last year. So did Jalen Ford. And both of them had mid-round grades. So they said, I like playing college football. I think I can have a better year and maybe get this thing higher. They both came back, which was obviously huge for Texas this year because they're not in the college football playoff without those two guys.
And huge for Sweat, too. I mean, he just moved into the first round.
Oh, especially for Sweat. Yeah, because, Jalen Ford, for linebackers, a lot of time, your grade just kind of is what it is. It's kind of like being a running back. You're not going to go from you usually don't go from being a fourth-round running back to a first-round. Running back between your junior and senior season. So,
but for Sweat's getting paid. Like this has worked out tremendously.
I expect him to go. Yeah, I expect him to be a first-round pick. I'd be really surprised if he wasn't a first-round pick this year. So, huge news for Oklahoma. I was surprised at both, but like I said, the timing of the Stutsman deal was weird. But Billy Bowman just saying, we're not even worried about the NFL. That one, to me personally, was a little bit more surprising just because he seems like a first or second round pick to me.
Maybe his girlfriend just said, "Look, Billy, you're not leaving yet. I'll let you know when you're leaving. You're leaving when I say you." I think it's possible.
Listen, he committed from Texas to follow her to OU.
I would do what Jada Coleman. I would do what Jada Coleman told me to do. It wouldn't bother me. I would do absolutely.
If not for her, man, that guy would be making plays for Texas, and it would be great. Him and his boy JT Sanders and Anthony Hill, all from the same high school, playing for Texas, would be beautiful, man. I'm still mad.
The only problem, it's just that was the positivity segment. Back to the negativity. I still don't know what we're going to do on offensive line. I have faith in Venables. People are mixed on Beat and Bow, at least on OU Twitter and some articles and sports radio right now in terms of why did this happen? Is he the reason? All of those things, and I don't know. In my mind, though, I think that I'm happy to have Bill Beat and Bow as the offensive line coach in a situation like this because I trust that he knows how to attack the transfer portal, put together an offensive line that can compete. Does that make sense?
It does. I would trust him to coach an offensive line. I don't know what type of recruiter is he. I don't know.
Well, he got Caden Green for a year, so I don't know. It's
I
don't know
about it, right? Caden Green is really the highest ranked guy you guys have had. That's not a criticism, but with the success you've had, you would think you would get more of those kind of 5-star type offensive linemen like him. Yeah. So I just wonder, and look, some coaches just aren't great recruiters. They're just there because they're really good coaches. And then on the flip side, you have some guys who are there. They're not really great coaches, but they're just lights out recruiters. So you have them on staff too. So I'm just wondering if Beat and Bow might be the former, guy who's just a coach, not really into the whole recruiting thing.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of it'll tell us by where Caden Green ends up. If he ends up somewhere, then I think we can really point to a money back situation. If he lines up somewhere else or winds up somewhere else, I don't know. The whole thing's fascinating.
And the timing is so weird, man.
The timing's weird.
He's from Missouri, right? And apparently they've got some good NIL stuff going on. That's how they were able to get and keep, at least so far, the commitment of Williams Winery, who we thought was at one point a lot to commit to OU, right? He's committed to Missouri. He's stuck with his commitment, at least so far. Signing date's coming up, right? So we'll see if it's them.
Yeah. Oh, that would suck. I'd hate to.
What would suck more, Missouri or Oregon?
Well, we'd have to play him if he goes to Missouri.
That's true, right? You play him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to lose him to somebody. Yeah, you don't want to lose him to somebody in the SEC. I mean, this is.
Yeah.
That's not. Look, He didn't start every play and play every play of the season. So, I don't know, but it's just.
Well, here's the thing. No. The thing about it though is he started the second half, which meant he finished high. He finished strong as a starter, right?
You're right.
He was somebody you were leaning on because of the lack of experience. It's like, okay, we have him. We're going to build around him. He's going to be the most experienced guy, and now he's gone. So, yeah, it's a tough spot. You got some good recruiters on your staff. It's a rough spot.
Let's take a moment before we start talking about the college football playoff to talk about our title sponsor, Brown O'Haver. Kevin works for Brown O'Haver. I work for Brown O'Haver. We are public insurance adjusters, work for the insured, not the insurance company. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know the pitch. We get you more money more quickly. However, this time of year at the holidays, fire safety is a very real deal that everybody needs to be paying attention to, whether it's your fireplace, whether it's lights on a dried out tree, whether it's a cooking situation, whatever it is. People
Space
at Christmas
heaters too. Can't forget those.
Absolutely. Space heaters are a huge deal, especially in buildings that you're not really maybe paying attention to, outbuildings, things like that. Pay attention, guys, to what's going on out there as it gets colder, as we get closer to Christmas, as drunk aunts and uncles start showing up at your house. Stuff's going to happen. You need to be paying attention to it. We would love to have you as a client at Brown O'Haver. We would want you to sign up with us. However, we don't want you to have a fire to be our client. So let's avoid the fire. Let's avoid the disaster, especially at the holidays. Pay attention to fire safety. Check out our website, brownohaver.com, for our latest blog on fire safety. Check out our Facebook page and check out Brown O'Haver's Twitter page for just a ton of safety tips and tricks to employ throughout the holiday and really the winter season. Kevin, you're right about space heaters. And you got to watch out for them. Give us a call if you've had the loss, though, 405-735-5510. All right, Kevin. Texas is heading. You don't really head. I guess you head on I-10, but what do you have to take to get to I-10 from Austin? I don't even know. You got to take something to I-10.
Just 35 south to San Antonio.
That's how you would go to New Orleans from Austin?
I think so.
No, that can't be right.
You can go, what is it? 259 or whatever it is down to Houston to get to I-10. But it's a drive I've never made. I never went from Austin to Houston. But you
no. You go. You don't go 10. You don't go 10. You do.
Are you mapping this out?
Yeah, I'm mapping it out right now. I'm on it.
You don't go I-10.
No. This stuff fascinates me.
No, me too. I'm a geography guy, so I'm with you.
Highway 71 East. You want to get on Highway 71 East. Okay. I-35 South, Highway 71 East, and then you get on I-10.
Okay, so you do get on I-10.
Yes, but it's 71 East until you get on I-10.
Do you hit? Like. You get on like near Houston, or where is it at?
Short of Houston, yeah.
Okay.
And it takes it's 511 miles. My point being with this geography lesson is that this is a very favorable matchup for you guys. Obviously, even more favorable if you make the national championship game. Quite the opposite for Washington. What is the early take on Texas fans attending? And if you had to make an early guess at a percentage of Texas fans filling up the Superdome, what would you put it at?
Okay. Well, first of all, there are going to be Texas fans everywhere in New Orleans. Demand for tickets for this game is absolutely insane, John. I have looked for tickets, and the cheapest ticket that I have found anywhere in the Superdome, we're talking about the worst seat in the house, is around $700. Yeah, and that's the worst seat. And now the demand has gone even higher because now that the Longhorn Foundation, so those who have season tickets, you get your season tickets through the Longhorn Foundation, they have only given out around 8,000 or so seats or tickets for Texas fans, where I think most bowl games, we've gotten around 13,000 for season ticket holders. So the demand is sky high, man. It's going to be a tough ticket. If you can get in, hey, good for you. We're going to have that building full. I mean, Washington fans will show up, right? Because it's a college football playoff. But I would expect at least 60-40. 70-30 maybe.
I was thinking 70-30. Okay, so you're a Texas fan, diehard. You've never been to a college football playoff, obviously. Are you going to try to go to New Orleans? Are you going to save up to go to Houston? Or have you taken both of them off the plate and said, I'm going to watch and enjoy on TV? Like, where's your headspace right now? Where's your headspace right now? Okay.
Okay. I've had kind of all three scenarios, right? The first one was like, okay, got to go to New Orleans. Got to. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should just try to go to Houston if they're able to get this win. Plan for Houston now. In case they're able to pull this off, go check that out. With the demand for that one's going to be even higher.
Okay, man. Can you buy a Houston ticket now?
You can buy a Houston ticket
and then just resell it if Texas doesn't make it?
Yes. Just the price is going to be even higher than what we talked about for the Sugar Bowl. So I'm still weighing through it.
Man, dude. And the problem is you got to buy two, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, you're going to have to buy two of those tickets. That's ginormous. I got to tell you, we've talked about this before. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. The problem with these ginormous sporting events, right? These cataclysmic events that involve your team is that let's say you're going to spend $2,500 on tickets to the national championship game, which is very likely what the number could be, right? $2,500 to go to Houston. The problem is, regardless of who you play, it's still a 50-50 chance of whether you win or lose. Now, if you win, it's the best $2,500 you'll ever spend in your life, and it'll be like the greatest moment of your life, and you'll be like, this is awesome. I would have paid $5,000 for it. But if you lose, it's like the worst $2,500 you'll ever spend in your life.
I spent all this money for this.
And those are just tickets to the game, right? We're not even talking about the hotel that you'd have to pay in, or the $30 nachos and the $28 beers, right? So my suggestion to all sports fans out there is go to the Masters, right, in Augusta. It never disappoints because you don't have a rooting interest in anything but seeing the golf course. So when I went to the Masters in 2014, I just paid to go see the Masters. It was a practice round. It was amazing. It was the best sporting event ever because there was no pressure. No pressure at the sporting event. They didn't have to win.
Winners and losers here.
Yeah, they didn't have to win to validate the money, right? I was just there and I was experiencing it. I'm telling you what, man, if Oklahoma was in a national championship game, I think I'd probably figure out how to get there. But man, I'd be butthurt if they lost. And I don't even want to think about it. Like, I don't even want to think about it.
I know, man. It's a dilemma. Now, the benefit is that it's, as close, almost as close. I mean, besides it being in Dallas, right, at Jerry World, as close as it's ever going to be, really, for both games.
Dude, Houston's a 7-hour drive. Like, that's an easy drive.
Correct. So part of me is like, man, you got to at least go and check it out, right? But, man, it's going to be an expensive trip. That ticket's going to be insane. Hotels are already going to be insane. Yeah, it's going to be, and I know hotel rooms are filling up already in New Orleans. I'm sure they are in Houston too. So it's going to be an expensive trip.
I saw a game at NRG Stadium. Is it still NRG Stadium or has it changed names?
I have no idea, man. These stadiums.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Of course.
I think it's NRG. I went to the Oklahoma-Houston game with Ed Oliver was on their defensive line.
I didn't realize you were there.
I was there. We lost. That was the game Baker lost. I was actually at both of those losses. I was at the Ohio State loss that year and the Houston loss that year. But really nice football stadium. We were kind of in the end zone, but had a really good ticket, really good vibe. It would be a really fun stadium to go watch a football game in. If I'm managing your money for you, I am buying Houston tickets now with the thought that I could sell them if you don't make it, or heck, sell them if you do make it and try to make some money on the deal. One or the other.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, because
Play
that
the-
demand's going to be crazy. And
It's
you
gonna
might
be
it
nuts.
is NRG. I remember it used to be Reliant. Remember when it first
Yeah.
opened? It was Reliant Stadium. Now it's NRG. I've never been there. How does it compare to Jerry? I know it's about a decade older or so. Well, maybe not quite a decade. 7 years older.
It doesn't have the wow factor that Jerry's World had, especially when I saw it. And maybe even when you saw Jerry's World, it's just a wow factor when you walk in. You almost can't believe that they would play a football game in such a building. It felt more like a really nice football stadium versus walking up to Jerry's World, which feels like you're walking up to a spaceship. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's kind of my feedback on it. All right, jump into the game itself. We've already figured out how Kevin's going to make money on this deal, so we're done with that. So looking at the game itself, how is Texas looking? How are they preparing? What's the scuttlebutt so far going into this game? We still have a long way off into this game, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. But what's just kind of the initial, after the announcement's been made, we're past that. We're going to start settling into game planning for Washington. Where do y'all think you're at?
Yeah, I think right now the team has actually had some time off, right? Start sent the players home for a little bit. They're back on campus now, finals week, so going through finals now, and they're actually going to start practicing on Friday. To start practicing, coaches have clearly been working on the game plan. Also, coaches have been on the road recruiting. So I think starting next week is really when they're going to start getting down to business, preparing for this Washington team. Look, man, I like this Washington team. Before the season started, I was really high on them having a really good season, and we've seen that. So, as a Texas fan, you have to think about what your weaknesses are. And for Texas, that's clearly been their pass defense, right? And you look at Washington, and their strength is their passing offense. So, a really good quarterback who has a ton of experience, and they've got 3 guys who are probably going to play in the NFL at playing wide receiver for them right now, right? So I think what it's going to come down to for Texas defensively is how they can affect Penix as a thrower, right? This defensive line that we have, Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, our edge guys, Ethan Burke, especially, and also blitzing somebody like Anthony Hill from the linebacker position. Can we affect him, make him uncomfortable, rush him into some throws? We saw down the stretch, some teams were able to do that and make him uncomfortable. He kind of struggled a little bit in those moments, right? You saw a few of those games, he was, just kind of uncharacteristically low numbers for him down the stretch. So I'm hoping that that's what we can do against their offense. I think we'll be able to move the ball on their defense. I think their pass defense is actually worse than Texas's is. They don't have the dynamic defensive line that we have. So I think we'll be able to keep them off balance. I think we'll come out, we can throw the ball early, establish our receivers and our tight end. Then once they start to spread out the defense, try to cover the pass, and I think that's when we'll attack them with the running game. And even though we lost Jonathan Brooks, CJ Baxter's been doing really well for us. So is Jaden Blue. So is Keelan Robinson. So yeah, I feel like we'll be able to score lots of points against them. It'll be a tough game, but it's one I think Texas can win.
The strength of your defense is the defensive line. If you've got a weak spot, it is pass coverage, which is Washington's strength,
Correct.
which you just talked about. How is that weakness even more impacted by the first half loss of the kid that got the targeting call on them? Okay, because he was a starting safety.
Yeah, he's become maybe even if he's not out there for the first play, he plays a ton for us.
Okay,
he's an important player for us. Yeah, and it sucks to not have him. Like I said, he's a really good player. He's a really talented player. Kind of sucks the penalty that he got too. I mean, I get the penalty, but I didn't think it was personally a targeting penalty. But the hell do I know, right? So yeah, we're really gonna have to rely on the defensive line to get pressure and to make Penix uncomfortable. Look, we got guys that can cover, right? I'm hoping that with all the time to prepare, we can do some things against these receivers, kind of figure out their tendencies and do a pretty good job on coverage, because we're going to have to make some plays in the secondary, because as good as our D-line is, we're not going to pressure on him every play, right? There are going to be times where he has time.
Well, the problem with Penix is he's shifty enough, right? And it's like the pressure. I don't know how to explain it, but when you're watching it, especially against the game against like Oregon, because Oregon did a really good job of putting pressure on him, is he was very comfortable and didn't seem to lose any velocity throwing off his back foot, right? It seemed like he was fading away from that pressure, but was still able to get plenty of arm strength on it, put the ball exactly where he wanted it. In other words, he seems really comfortable in the pressure situations that you would expect Texas to put him on. And so when you're talking, that's going to be a fascinating deal. My question is, do you think Washington, they ran the ball against Oregon, especially in that fourth quarter, and that's what put the game away in that Pac-12 championship game. Do you think that Johnson kid from Washington is going to have the running game against you guys? Or do you think this is you can just shut him down like you did Ollie Gordon and even Oklahoma's running back game?
Yeah, I mean, the only way that happens is if we just get so focused on, we get upfield too quickly and they hit us with a draw play, with a delayed handoff. Honestly, that's the only way. Just because with this defense, nobody has really been able to run the football. The best running performance against his defense was Texas Tech. And, we beat them by 50 points, so nobody really even noticed. But he had a pretty good game, Todd Brooks. So, I mean, maybe, but I don't see it, man. I don't see it, him being able to have a huge game against this defensive line.
You're saying if you get beat, it'll be at the hands of the receivers. I mean, that's what you think. So. If you get beat, that's where they're going to beat you.
Correct.
You talk
this
about
is somebody who has a lot of respect for Washington too. Some Texas
no.
It's going to be an easy game. I don't know about that, man. We're here for a reason.
If you're new to the Boomer Bevo podcast, you need to know Kevin has been on the Michael Penix train for pretty much an entire year, starting in the off season. Like, so this is not for him. It's not a surprise. We both did pick Oregon to win the Pac-12 championship game, but I think Washington showed us exactly who they were, which is when they have all three of those receivers back, they're really, really good. Switching over to your potential finals matchup, let's talk a little Michigan and Alabama right now. Does Michigan have what it takes to slow down Jalen Milroe? Does Michigan have what it takes to run the ball effectively against Alabama with Blake Corum? I've got doubts about the answers to both of those questions, but I'm curious to know what you have to think.
Okay, I do like Michigan's defense. I think they can be disciplined enough to at least contain him. That's what it comes down to with him. You just can't let him, if you get too far up the field and he gets into the open field, man, he's deadly. And if he gets into the open field against that Michigan defense, goodbye. Right? He'll take it to the house. He'll go 70 against them. I just want to see, can they be disciplined enough to keep him contained?
Okay, hold on. Here's the problem, okay? The problem is they played East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, Penn State, Maryland. They did win against Ohio State, and then they beat Iowa. My point in reciting their schedule is not to say they shouldn't have been there, because they won. They're undefeated. An undefeated Power 5 team, always makes it. So that's no problem. But the issue except Florida State. The issue is, though, they haven't faced anybody as good as Alabama offensively. They haven't faced anybody as good as Texas offensively, Washington offensively, and if we're just going to throw in Boomer Bevo talk, Oklahoma or Oregon offensively. Like, they haven't faced anybody with that offense. Oregon State, they did face Marvin Harrison, but that Ohio State game, I'm sorry, not Oregon State, the Ohio State, they were good, but they're not on the level of any of the other three teams in the college football playoff from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, and this Ohio State offense with Kyle McCord is not the same. It's not.
It's not. It is
Kyle
not.
McCord is not C.J. Stroud. He certainly isn't Justin Fields.
And we're seeing, and we're really seeing C.J. Stroud in the pros. He's going to win Rookie of the Year, man. He is playing fantastic.
He's away with it so far.
And that explained how they were able to stay in that ball game with Georgia last year.
They probably could have. They should have beat Georgia last year.
They probably should have beat Georgia. And so, all that to be said, I don't trust Alabama. Like, I think, yes, they've got a really good defense, but I've talked about it all year in the Big Ten. Dude, the Big Ten.
So you don't trust Michigan?
I do not trust Michigan. They have their schedule, while not necessarily terrible in terms of strength of schedule or strength of record, just in terms of the style of play, they haven't had to play anybody. Their defensive statistics are bolstered by the ineffectiveness of the offenses they faced throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
Right?
I completely agree with you. And that's why I'm saying I'm curious if they can be disciplined enough. I'm not saying talented enough to shut anything down. I just want to see, can they be disciplined enough to try to contain it? Because right now, their biggest threat, two things. It's him, Jalen Milroe, running the ball, and, of course, the deep passing game. Because he is one of the best deep ball throwers in college football. Right? We saw it all season long against Texas. He is really good at throwing the deep ball. I mean, he's a guy, if a guy is 10 yards away from him, he'll throw it in the dirt. But if it's a 40 yards down the field, he'll hit a guy in stride.
Yeah,
while rolling out.
And it'll look great in the air. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. What's the line on the Michigan game? Do you know?
I don't have it in front of me, and to your second point, as far as Blake Corum, I don't know. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough to run against this Alabama defense. Alabama's gotten better. And they've been good all season long, but they've gotten even better as the season has gone on. They have guys that can rush. Remember, Michigan lost their best offensive lineman to a broken leg in the Ohio State game, right? So that's already a weakness there. They better run the ball.
It's 1.5. Alabama's a 1.5. Michigan's a 1.5 point favorite. And Texas, Texas is a 4-point favorite. Michigan 1.5.
No movement in the lines as of yet since they got released last Sunday. Here's the thing about Michigan, though, real quick. They better run the ball because if they get into a position where they have to throw, first of all, we haven't seen J.J. McCarthy be in that position literally all season. We don't even know what he can do.
The second best team on their schedule, they didn't even throw a pass in the second half, dude.
Correct.
Like, how do you trust this guy?
Even more important than that, the Alabama pass rush is legit. They've got two really good edge rushers. I've been a Dallas Turner guy for 3 years now, right? This dude is dynamic off the edge. So if you get into a position where you have to throw the ball, good luck. Good luck trying to protect against those studs they've got on the edge. So it's an interesting matchup. It's going to be an amazing setting in the Rose Bowl. It's a fascinating game. Alabama's more proven than Michigan is.
No, I disagree. I think for the last 3 years, we've seen what Michigan can do in a playoff, or at least 2 years. They can lose. They lose playoff games.
Yeah, so Alabama's more proven.
They're
this year.
Michigan right now they're almost the opposite of Oklahoma, right? But when Oklahoma was in the playoff, it's like, well, they've got a really good offense, but their defense sucks. I kind of feel like Michigan's got a really good defense, but their offense sucks. And they haven't gone up against the defense as good. Ohio State's defense is pretty good, but I don't think it's as good as Alabama's. I don't think it's as talented as Alabama's.
It's not. No. It's not.
I just don't know what. Do you think the line on that Michigan game is because they've just got simply more people betting it down, or is
it open at that? There's been no movement in either of the lines since
it could be too far. Maybe too far out to move the line. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe as practice comes along over the next couple of weeks, we'll see some movement. I don't know, man. I'm curious to see both lines.
Who do you want to play? You want to play Michigan or Alabama in Houston? If you're lucky enough to make it.
I'm going to be honest, right? I like our matchup against either team, if I'm being honest. I think our worst matchup out of the 3 teams is Washington. if I'm being honest. Right now,
Yeah.
Bama's going to have a lot of motivation seeing that we went down there and beat them earlier in the season. I like the matchup against Michigan. If their matchup is going to be to line up and run the football, we'll take that all day.
I don't think you want to rematch with Alabama, dude. I don't think you want to mess with I don't think you want to mess with a clearly better Jalen Milroe and a pissed off Nick Saban. Like I think you want a Michigan. You want Michigan, especially in Texas. I mean, especially in Houston, where your crowd's going to be 65, 70%. I think you want a Michigan matchup. I don't think you want to mess with an Alabama matchup because Saban will scheme some stuff up. That dude he is planning to play you right now. You know what I mean? And so I don't love that matchup. We've got about 15 minutes left. I want to talk some Oklahoma basketball real quick. Yes, this is the podcast about the greatest rivalry in college football, but that doesn't mean we don't talk other sports. And Oklahoma's basketball team right now is absolutely rolling. Big win against Arkansas in Tulsa this past Saturday. One of only 8 remaining undefeated teams in Power 5 basketball. We go to play North Carolina in the next couple weeks before the preseason starts. That's our last big game before the conference season starts. But I'll tell you what, man, Jalen Moore, Milos Uzon, we're loaded, Kevin. We look more athletic than we've looked in a very long time. And it is really, really, really exciting to watch. Porter Moser has these guys running. He's got them playing defense. They're just way more physical. Last year, we had guys that didn't even deserve to be on a starting lineup for a Big 12 team. And now we're rolling dudes out. I've talked about it now for 2 years with him. In his first 2 years, he's lost in the transfer portal. Better players have left than the ones he's brought in. This is the first year he has won at the transfer portal, and I think he's won in a really big way. And I think we're in a position to maybe not win the Big 12 championship, but to be a lot more competitive in our first time to get back to the dance at least in the Porter Moser era, but even prior to when we had Kruger. I'm really, really excited about this. How has Texas's basketball team looked, or are you too focused on football right now?
I've seen a couple of their games so far, right? It's been up and down. They've got an entirely new roster. They've got some good players, but you can tell they're still trying to figure it out as a team. It's been up and down. They played Marquette on the road, so it's kind of cool seeing Shaka Smart. He seems to be doing really well up there for Marquette. He seems to have brought Havoc back, which I'm not sure where that was when he was in Austin, but they're doing a good job, and they beat Texas down. They beat the Texas team by 20-plus points. So they're still trying to figure it out. I'm not anxious about it yet. It's still early. I want to see how they finish out non-conference play before they get into conference play, and I'm hoping they improve throughout the season because it's a bit of a shaky start so far.
Now, this is your new coach, though, right? This is the guy that took over for
Rodney Terry. Yeah, you're right about that. He took over for Chris Beard, which was an interim basis, right? And I thought they were going to bring in another coach, but then he messed around and took us to the Elite Eight. It was close to taking us to the Final Four. So I think they felt like they had to give him the job after that. So, so far, they're 7-2 right now. Okay. We see the losses were to, I know they had the loss to Marquette, and then they lost to UConn up in Madison Square Garden. Again, UConn is ranked in the top 5.
Yeah, that's not a bad
right?
loss. That's not a bad loss.
No, and again, same with Marquette. Marquette's in the top 10. So they play against LSU in Houston on Saturday. I don't know if LSU's any good, but they always have good players. So that'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see how they do there. That's the last big game that they have before conference play starts. So they beat Louisville, lost to UConn, they beat Wyoming, Texas State, lost to Marquette. So they've got LSU and just a couple other kind of tune-up games before conference play starts on January 6th. against Texas Tech in Austin, and we always know how it's tough playing against Texas Tech in basketball.
Dude, the Big 12 is the tough. The Big 12 is the toughest program in the toughest basketball conference in the country. And I don't think there's much debate there. And then they've gone ahead and added BYU, who this year I think is ranked in the top 10. So they're really good. And then next year, you're adding Arizona and Utah. I don't know if Utah's any good or not, but I know Arizona typically is. And so
Yeah,
I think the Big 12, is going to be well positioned for a while. The problem is we've got to go through the Big 12, both Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma has not fared well in the Big 12 in the last 3 or 4 years. It's been
but it seems like your coach finally got the roster that he wants, right? So he can play the style that he wants, the style that allowed him to take Loyola Chicago all the way to the Final Four.
I agree. Look at these guys. Look at these. You talk about who y'all won and lost against. Oklahoma's already got a win against Iowa, USC in California, Providence, and Arkansas. I mean, that's a pretty salty. Those are pretty salty 4 games right there, dude. That it makes you feel really good. But again, it's not Kansas. It's not Texas Tech and Lubbock. It's not K-State. It's not Baylor.
Not even them. Houston.
Oh, crap. Dude, I forgot about Houston.
Stutsman.
Exactly.
They're in the conference now.
What are they? Are they ranked right now?
Oh, my goodness. Let me pull it up. They're probably in the top 10.
Well, they're
number
4. They're number 4. They're number 4 in AP.
Go.
That's crazy.
Texas played them twice this year. I don't know if you guys have them on the schedule or not.
I did forget about them. Oh crap, dude! Can you imagine?
Exactly.
And then and BYU's number 18 in the country.
There you go.
BYU's number 18
schedule here, and actually, I don't. Oh yeah, there you go. They come to Norman on March 2nd.
You think Kelvin Sampson gets cheered, right? I think so.
You would think so, right? I mean, took you guys to the Final Four a couple times.
I like Kelvin Sampson. Yeah.
Right.
Final Four a couple times.
Game 8.
Hollis Price, Eduardo Nahara. Those guys were good, man. We were a lot more competitive with Kelvin Sampson. There's no doubt about that. A lot more competitive with Kelvin Sampson.
He's a really good coach. So, but yeah, it's so early, right? We'll see what happens. Like I said, when we play Texas Tech and the likes, of course, Kansas is obviously the king of the conference. Always has been. Seems like they always will be, especially as long as Bill Self is there. Texas goes to Lawrence on February 24th. It's always tough.
Have y'all won in Lawrence recently that you can remember?
I think they won there a couple years ago.
I don't think we've won in Lawrence since the 90s.
Man,
and what's crazy about that is that includes teams that had Buddy Hield, that had Hollis Price, that had Blake Griffin, of course, Trae Young. So it's not like Oklahoma's been down in the dumps since the 90s. We've had some pretty effective basketball teams and have not won a game in Lawrence since the 90s. That's insane.
It's tough. I mean, when the teams we have with TJ Ford that went to the Final Four did not win in Lawrence. Kevin Durant was there. We didn't win in Lawrence, even though he, probably scored 35 points up there. So it's tough, man. They just got this thing rolling. It's rough, man. It's rough.
The problem is, and you know this, you know what I'm talking about. It's not just Kansas though in this league, right? It's all those other teams I mentioned. They're all solid. They're all really good, and there's just no.
I would say to the world,
there's no nights off. There are no nights off in a Big 12 schedule. Maybe Oklahoma State might be the closest thing to a night off. They've really been struggling, but outside of that, I just, golly, dude, I don't want to play any of them. So anyway, I think basketball is going to be a fun year, but man, get back to football. We've got here's the schedule, Boomer Bevo podcast fans, for the rest of the month of December. We're going to give you a
2021 real quick. Yeah, 2021 Texas won in Lawrence.
Oh, nice.
84-59.
Jeez. Did Kansas still won the conference and I think won the
I'm
national
sure.
championship, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah.
No, Baylor. Baylor won. That's what I'm talking about, dude. We didn't even talk about Baylor. They're all so good. Okay, anyway, Boomer Bevo Podcast fans, here's the schedule for December. As we come up, our next episode we're going to hit you on signing day. We'll have a signing day reaction episode, go through the classes for both Oklahoma and Texas, and see what we're feeling. Hopefully by then we have some more transfer portal updates. Kevin, when does the transfer portal close though? Does it stay open? Signing, like active recruiting, closes down.
Yeah, I think it closes in early February, something like that.
Oh, so we got a while on transfer. But either way, hopefully we got some more transfer portal stuff. Then we're going to do a Alamo Bowl preview episode, an Alamo Bowl recap episode, and then of course we're going to do a college football playoff Sugar Bowl preview for the University of Texas. And then if this schedule holds, and I think it will, our 100th episode will be covering the reaction to the game of the Texas Longhorns in the Sugar Bowl. Kevin, it could be a historic game for the University of Texas to make it to the first CFP final. How sweet would that be for you if that was also on our 100th episode?
Yeah, man, it would be incredible. We're kind of getting to dream level stuff here. If they win this game against Washington, so we'll see, man. You know, I told you, Big 12 winning the Big 12 was my only expectation for the team. Anything else is a bonus. So I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy it.
We haven't talked about this, but let's talk about this real quick before we let go here. We got about 4 minutes. If you're Florida State, do you play in the Orange Bowl?
Yes.
I think so too.
Play in the Orange Bowl. Let your players play if they want to play.
Get the swag.
You haven't. To me, like as good as they've been, you haven't earned the right as a program to turn down playing in a game like the Orange Bowl. It's kind of how I felt about Georgia when they said that, oh, we weren't excited to play in the Sugar Bowl against Texas. I'm like, why? You guys they hadn't even won a national championship yet on the purpose line. They hadn't won a national championship since 1980. So no, you don't have the right to not want to play in the freaking Sugar Bowl, right? Now, if Georgia didn't want to play in the Sugar Bowl this year, I get it because you won back-to-back natties, so this is going to be a letdown game compared to that. But nah, man. Play in the Orange Bowl. Go see if you can beat Georgia. Go play.
I think you're right, man. I think you got players that want to show out. I think people play the game kind of because they enjoy it. And it's an experience, dude. And you get so much swag at these bowl games and stuff that, you know, if your NIL dollars can probably only increase going into it. I think it's going to be a bad look, if anything, beyond them playing in it. I just
don't
think
be
they probably
here. Listen,
and they will, right? They're going to play, right?
They have to, man.
Yeah.
And again, let's not forget the ACC, including Florida State, voted down the opportunity to expand the playoff this year. Remember, they created that little alliance thing between a couple of those conferences, and
I forgot
they voted
about
against
that.
expanding the playoff this year. They expanded the playoff this year. Guess where they'd be? Getting ready for a playoff game.
Yeah,
probably with a bye.
And no, they wouldn't have a bye. They'd be hosting, right? And the 5th seed, they'd be hosting.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is they probably wouldn't be the 5th seed. There'd be no issue of keeping them in the top 4 where they have been pretty much all season long.
Oh, right? I see what you're saying. Because they didn't feel like they had to let Alabama in. They could have dropped Alabama to 5, given Alabama a home game. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So you're probably right. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. At least getting their backup quarterback healthy and ready.
All right. Well, okay. So the consensus is Mike Norvell go play in the Orange Bowl. Kevin, have a great night. Enjoy the rest of the transfer portal signing day periods, and we'll talk then.
Portal madness. It's madness, man.
God, dude, I don't need it to calm down. I need to see momentum on OU side. I felt like we had momentum going into today, and it just like all got wiped away. So let's get the momentum back, OU. We've got this. In the meantime, Kevin, get ready for Georgia. You still got, I don't know what, 3 weeks until you play. It's got to be brutal.
Washington,
the anticipation's killing you.
Oh, it is, man. Just this past weekend on Saturday, I'm like, ooh, what the heck is going on?
Army Navy was fun. Army Navy's always fun.
It was fun.
When the helicopters fly over and oh my
God. See, that's why it's fun because of the pageantry, right? And we love those guys as the future leaders of our country. These guys are all badasses, right? But
it's not Oklahoma football.
Type of level.
It's
not Texas football. It's not. Yeah. So I like to watch. I watch the beginning, all the pageantry. I usually watch the beginning of the game, and then I might do a little something else, and I come back and watch the end.
It was cool though because I got back from Boston, and everywhere that I went. So I went to like the USS Constitution, which is a naval station. Now it's inactive or kind of pseudo active, but they were like in the process of getting ready because that's where it was being played in Foxborough. So they were getting ready for the Army Navy game. So there was a bunch of Navy personnel there putting stuff together, getting things ready, getting signs made for all the midshipmen to carry and stuff like. It was pretty cool. That was pretty
cool
fun
stuff. Yeah, great stuff. Shout out to those players for both of those guys. I mean, the fact that these guys are preparing for war, while still being college students, while still being college athletes at the same time, man, it's pretty impressive, man.
Well, I know he didn't play football, but it's still one of our collective, you and my both favorite athletes of all time, David Robinson. I mean, just think about it. The dude was on a submarine for 2 years. Are you kidding me?
Correct.
Like, can you even imagine that today? A 7-footer with the talent of David Robinson go, first of all, playing for 4 years in a university, and then in addition to that, then going to serve submarine duty, which I think they did let him out a year early, right? Like I think they did.
Well, I think he did 2 years.
No, I know he did 2 years.
I don't know what the obligation was, but he did. It doesn't matter. 2 years after the Naval Academy, this 7'1" guy on a submarine.
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh!
No,
I love it.
No.
And
the discipline there.
You think that You think the Denzel character is based on David Robinson?
Hey, it could be.
Could be.
He has a couple meltdowns, but I can't see Robinson doing that. Although he did get teed up a few times and tossed out some games. You don't want to piss off David Robinson. He's so nice. If you piss him off, man, you better watch out.
You've had problems.
It's dangerous.
You've had problems. What did his son ever end up doing at Notre Dame? His son was at Notre Dame, right?
He was actually a quality player. He was.
Yeah.
He was a quality player, but he actually ended up giving up football because he had too many concussions.
Oh, did he really? That sucks.
Yeah, he got like 2 or 3. He was a receiver. He was a talented receiver, about 6'5". And he was playing quite a bit for him. Robinson, ended up having 2 concussions and gave up football. Just focused on being a student at Notre Dame.
David Robinson, quickest big man of all time, right? Quickest. That was always his deal.
Freakish athlete, man. Can you imagine him playing right now? It'd be completely unfair. Him at the stretch 5, basically. He could handle the ball. He was left-handed too.
Yeah. Well, they didn't shoot. They didn't let centers shoot 3-pointers back then. Can you imagine if he'd grown up in an era where he could have shot threes? He'd be Victor
in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, how tall is Wembanyama?
I think he's like 7'4".
Yeah, he's pretty tall. But he's like Chet. But imagine Chet. But he wasn't skinny though. Dude. He was an athletic, big dude. Like
he was ripped, man. Yeah, he was a specimen for sure.
Dude, listen, him and Sean Elliott, 2 of my favorite Spurs. Of course, I don't think that's anybody that grew up in my age, dude, knows Sean Elliott and David Robinson. That was where it's at. Right. Man, I love those guys. I freaking love them so much. Oh, that made me feel good. All right, that made me feel good. That made me forget Kadam Green just for a minute. All right, dude. Have a great evening. Boomer.
Welcome.